Earlier today, I was invited by BBC News to be interviewed about the Conservative leadership election. Now, I know some of my subscribers don't necessarily like Boris Johnson. Some of you aren't actually even Tory members, you're from different parties. But most of you are Brexiteers, and if we want to get Brexit done, at the moment when it comes to Conservative candidates, there's only one person who can actually sort this out, and that's Boris. So I went on TV and I was interviewed about Boris Johnson and why I'm backing him.
Let's bring in three of those Conservative Party members who will actually get the final vote on who becomes your new Prime Minister. Maya Tousi is a political YouTuber. Maya, hello. Thanks for your patience. Who are you backing at this stage?
Boris Johnson.
Why?
Well, it's quite simple because Boris is the only unifying candidate right now because he's got the support from all sides of the party, but he also has a very successful track record in terms of leadership, specifically in London as a mayor.
OK. And do you think he's getting support from all sides of the party because he's saying different things to different elements of the party?
No, it's quite interesting because if a candidate is divisive, people always criticize, say, oh, you have to kind of get everyone on your side. When someone is unifying, they say, oh, does that mean he's saying different things to different people? But that's not true because he's a one nation conservative. So his values and his ideas do appeal to basically all sides of the party, economically and socially, and especially when it comes to Brexit, because even Remain MPs who are backing Boris just want Brexit to be done. So that's why they're backing him.
Now, the problem with the BBC these days is that they're slightly moving away from what they used to stand for in terms of their professional reporting and their balanced approach to things. Because they're being pushed, just like many other TV channels, towards creating a more entertaining atmosphere for the viewers. So what happened with this situation, with the whole Tory leadership elections, is that they are trying to make it more entertaining for viewers by focusing more on characters and people's backgrounds instead of focusing solely on policy, because that's what matters. The next Conservative leader is going to be Prime Minister, and their policies as Prime Minister matters more than just their character or their background. So the debate shifted towards identity politics and the candidates' background and what they say in the past, and this was my response to it. You said it didn't really have much influence, I think, Maya, you were saying.
Not really. I think at the end of the day, this might be kind of entertaining politics side of all this. I think at the end of the day, people care about action and policy outcome and what that person is going to be doing. If it was based on someone's background, me and my family are political refugees from Iran. That means I should be more qualified than a lot of other candidates, but obviously I'm not. So I'd rather go with someone who has a good track record like Boris Johnson rather than background story.
So today's interview was obviously following last night's BBC debate with the Conservative candidates, and the problem with that was that the format that they came up with was absolutely ridiculous. They, again, for the sake of entertainment, they didn't really have a clear structure, so you had all the Tory candidates shouting at each other and the BBC producers probably loving it in the background. And let's have a look at a few seconds and see what happened.
You are saying you'd be happy with no Brexit. I'm totally wrong for our country.
We can't hear. Rory Stewart, we can't hear anything.
Across both sides of the House.
Boris Johnson, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Why would they sign up to that implementation period? Sorry, we can't hear. We can't hear.
What is your plan, Rory,
for
education and children's services?
So for anyone that actually watched the debate last night, you probably noticed that no one in the country actually gained or lost anything by watching it. None of us actually learned anything new from the candidates. There was no clear or proper discussion about policies. Very entertaining TV. Now, the other problem with the BBC organising this was that they had selected a number of ordinary voters from across the country via video chat to ask their questions. Now, that didn't go as planned either. Now, we had a couple of questions from people who had publicly dodgy views posted on social media and just in general in their organizations. Usually news channels, the researchers are supposed to be doing a bit of digging before they invite someone on TV. Somehow these people were still invited. For example, an ordinary voter asked a question about the next Conservative leader not having a mandate unless they call a general election. Now, without knowing the background of that person who asked this question, you would say, this is a very, very familiar line. Who says that these days? Who keeps calling for a general election? Jeremy Corbyn. Yes, we discovered that the questioner was in fact a Labour staffer, Aman Taka. The panel were accused of having no democratic mandate by Aman Taka. It turns out that not only Was Taka a Labour Party council candidate in 2018 in Southwark, he even worked in Labour HQ. As this letter sent in October 2018 suggests, the General Secretary has appointed Aman Taka legal assistant to arrange conduct of the party's own investigation. Now, obviously the BBC got a lot of complaints about these ordinary voters who are asking questions from the Conservative candidates. This was the statement that the BBC issued earlier today. We carried out background research into the online and social media profiles of all our questioners for last night's debate. Following the debate, one individual reactivated a public Twitter account he had previously deactivated, whose tweets were not visible during our research period. Had we been aware of the views he expressed there, he would not have been selected. So that's the defense line from the BBC. But the main issue and the whole point of this video is that because of this concept of entertainment TV and the BBC just being BBC as usual, they're kind of ruining the whole debate of this Tory election race, because they are, for example, focusing a lot on other candidates, certain candidates, based on their policy and their programs. But when it comes to others, including Boris Johnson, literally every single day we keep going back to the same arguments, same questions about character, about his background, about some joke he made a while ago. It's getting quite tiring, and there's one example that literally comes up every day, and I really want to address this. And this is about the British Iranian Nazanin, who is currently being held by the Iranian government. Obviously, as you may already know, back in 2016, Nazanin travelled to Iran, and as she was planning to leave, the Iranian police arrested her and accused her of being a British spy. She's not the only one, but she was the one that got a lot of coverage in the media. Now, the BBC journalists and reporters have this tendency of keep bringing up this moment when Boris Johnson was Foreign Secretary and he made some comments that could have been dealt better. And they're saying because of these comments, Nazanin was never released.
The problem is, how can you trust Boris Johnson when he's not across the detail? Paul's just said it's all about broad brush. I mean, he said last night his comments on Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe when he was Foreign Secretary didn't make any difference. We're talking about comments made by the then Foreign Secretary that could have negatively influenced what happened to Nazanin and allowed the Iranians to use that.
I have a lot of Iranian family members and friends who are also currently held by the Iranian government. I've been quite familiar and aware of the way the Iranian government operates. They were never going to release Nazanin with or without any comments by Foreign Secretary or the government in general. They played the game quite well, and our mainstream media fell for it quite easily. So if anyone is watching this from the mainstream media, you need to kind of do a bit of research into knowing how the Iranian government have been operating for the past 40 years. This isn't the first one. Nazanin is not even the only victim currently being held in Iran. Things aren't as easy as you think. It's never black and white, but a bit of professionalism might help when it comes to policies and politics in general. So overall, as I said, the BBC and also organisations like the BBC haven't really helped to cover the Conservative leadership, but let's just hope that when the second round comes, when we have the top two candidates, when it's going to be more of a public debate, because right now it's in the first round, it's more of a private round where MPs only talk to MPs, and hopefully we're going to have a better debate and better coverage so that people are actually kind of informed when it comes to these candidates and our future Prime Minister. In the meantime, if you are a right-leaning freedom fighter and don't really want to watch the mainstream media, make sure you subscribe to this channel and click on the notification bell next to it, and I'll see you tomorrow with a new video.